Heyo everybody, Haku here with my third version, I think is what I'm going to call it, of my favorite characters video for Magical Girl Raising Project or Mahou Shoujo Ikusei Keikaku. If I randomly change appearance in the middle of the video, it's because this is going to be super duper long. I'm ranking every character, all 63 of them, from what I've read so far, from my least favorite to my most favorite, and discussing them all. So this is going to be really long. I'm gonna have to record it in multiple different parts, so since that's the case, I don't know if I'm gonna be recording all of it even on this same day. So yeah, that would explain that. And also, because it's going to be so super long, I kind of don't want it to be like a 2-hour plus video, so I might have to split it into 2 or 3 parts. I don't personally know yet. But yeah, if so, I will be posting them pretty much back to back, so whenever you see the first part of this, the second part won't be long behind it. If anything, it'll just be later the same day or something, but I'll keep you updated on Twitter and Discord like I usually try to do. So yeah, like I said, gonna talk about all 63 characters, unmarked through Jokers is where we've gotten so far, from my least favorite to my most favorite. It feels like once I get to like 40 and above, maybe even before that, it's going to be like, oh, I love all of these characters. How do I choose between them? Because there were some where I'm like going through and I'm like, wait, I have her at like 34, but I absolutely love that character. And then I look at the ones above and I'm like, oh, but I love them even more. And even towards the bottom, I wouldn't say that most of them are bad characters. They're just characters that are either kind of boring, there are a couple that are like that, or characters that I think are good characters, they're good villains, but they're kind of assholes, so I'm like, they're not my favorite, screw them. They're jerks. So, yeah, that would kind of make up what a lot of the bottom of the list is going to be. But those 63 are just the magical girls and Mana, not counting the mascot characters. So real quick before I get into that and before I start doing that, also going to bring up that I will have a picture of whoever I'm talking about up in the corner as I'm going along, so if you're skipping through looking at stuff for whatever reason, that should be easier to find out who I'm on. But yeah, other than that, before I get started, I am going to talk about Fav, Fall, and Toko before I get there, because I know a lot of you are probably going to want me to talk about Fall because he's one of my favorites, and from what I've experienced from the comments, he's a lot of your favorite as well. So yeah, talking about Fav first. So Fav, I think, was a good villain. He was kind of really the true main villain of Unmarked when you think about it, more than anybody else, because Swim Swim was bad and Clamberry kind of was also bad, but they were both in a way manipulated and controlled by what Fav was doing. The main plan that put everything into action was Fav's doing. So I thought he was a good first villain, not actually being one of the magical girls, but being a controlling force behind the scenes. And then to talk about Toko, Toko was simultaneously, I mean, she was a jerk. She didn't care about other people. She was totally willing to let a bunch of innocent people die. But at the same time, Toko as a character was so entertaining. When she would like go off on these angry rants or go back and forth bantering with other characters, Toko was one of the more interesting parts of Limited. So I can't say that I hate Toko at all. Even though she's bad, but she's entirely entertaining, and I feel like she totally didn't deserve a death as brutal as being, or yeah, obviously spoilers for the 4 volumes or 4 arcs that I've read so far. She didn't deserve being cut up and eaten. Like, judging her by some of the other characters who have done bad things, I mean, it's like, oh, Toko's pretty bad, but it could have been worse. So, yeah, she didn't deserve that. She didn't deserve that death. And then Fall, I love Fall. One of my favorite characters because not only was Fall good in Restart, you start off thinking, oh, it's another one of these fuckers like Fav, but he actually was a good guy, so it was like a good guy Fav, and it was different. And behind the scenes, we got to see he and Keek and these other characters sort of playing out their story behind the scenes and him kind of relaying things to the girls that are in the survival game. And he played a really cool role there in the mystery, ending up in the end helping the girls and Snow White, and having to make that decision to disobey his master in order to do what was right. But then coming back in Jokers, he was such a good character in Jokers, and one of the best parts of Fall in Jokers was that instead of seeing from Snow White's point of view, we rarely saw from her point of view. Most of the time when her actions were up, we saw it from Fall's point of view. We got to hear what he was thinking about her and what he was thinking about the decisions she was making and why he thought she was making those decisions. Not only did it develop him, but it made Snow White more cool and mysterious, where we don't know exactly what she's thinking. We're only seeing what she's thinking from the context of Fall's point of view. So I think Fall is one of the best characters in the entire series. But yeah, I just didn't want to count the 3 mascot characters when ranking the Magical Girls, so that's about where we ended up. So yeah, that is that. And now I'm going to get into talking about the 63 from least to most favorite. We start out with the bottom of the list, the worst of the worst, Calamity Mary at 63. So some of these I'll probably talk about more than others, because some of them I'll have more deep and complex thoughts on than others, or some of them just had more to do in the story than others. So yeah, I feel like towards the top of the list, the characters I liked more, I'll talk about them more. But yeah, starting at the bottom, Calamity Mary. I feel like she was the most unredeemably asshole-ish in the series. She was the character who did the most evil while having the least good reason to do so, even before becoming a magical girl and being put in a survival game. Like a lot of the characters that did evil things, it's like they were fighting for their lives, they were in a survival game, so you kinda somewhat can get it. But then you see Calamity Mary, who was a jerk even before becoming a magical girl. She was an alcoholic who beat her child, and I think she beat her husband as well. So yeah, she was an abusive alcoholic mother, and even becoming a magical girl, she decided instead of saving people, she was going to fight criminals, but not because she actually wanted to stop criminals. She was going to fight them to progress her own criminal path. So yeah, not a good person. A good character, I think, a good villain, but she's the bottom of the list because damn if there's no other character that is as unlikable and contemptible as Calamity Mary. So that's why she's at the very bottom. Next up as number 62 is Minael of the Peaky Angels. So I put Minael as worse than Uniel because they're another character who is bad, but without much reason to be bad. They're just sort of vain, rude, selfish. Both the Peaky Angels are, but I think Minael is worse in my opinion. You could give her the excuse that, okay, her sister died, but at the same time, she tracked down, deceived, and killed, like, was Alice an elementary schooler? I think maybe. So she tracked down and murdered an elementary schooler, essentially. Like, Minael was full evil, complete bad guy. So, yeah, I think I would put them at that level because I feel like their betrayal of ruler, while somewhat understandable from a certain point of view, was a bad guy thing to do. Plus, they were just sort of bad personality-wise. So yeah, again, a case where I don't think they're bad characters. They're just like, screw them, screw all the things they did, what they did to Weiss Winter Prison, and again, what happened with Hardcore Alice. Like, there is one of the reasons it's so hard to hate Clanberry as a villain, or Cranberry. I like saying Clanberry though, just because it's funny. But one of the reasons why it's hard to dislike her as a villain is because she does just as much to, or even more, to take out the bad guys as the good guys do. Like, there is no better feeling than when she just stabs her hand into a rock and it's Minael. So, yeah, contemptible, evil character. I don't think a bad character, just a bad person, you know? And now at number 61 is one that I think a lot of people wouldn't have expected to be here quite as much, and that's Lady Proud. Lady Proud to me is here down this low because she is one of the few characters in the series that I find pretty boring. I find Lady Proud kind of boring. And the thing is, her design is cool. I thought she had a ton of potential to begin with. The original showing that, okay, she has this sort of weird, deep relationship with Umbrain. She has this ambition that she's fighting toward. It's like, okay, she has a lot of potential. And then the only real thing she does in the story of Jokers is be annoying. The only thing she does is Snow White's like, oh wait, I can hear people's minds, so this is the right thing to do. And then Umbrain and Lady Proud are like, ha, screw the right thing to do. We're going to do something that doesn't benefit any of us in any way. And it ends up screwing them all over. And like, I usually feel for characters dying in some sort of way, but when Lady Proud dies, it's like, and her death too wasn't that spectacular. When she dies, it's like, that was it. That was her character. That was her whole role in Jokers. We didn't focus or do too much with her, and in episodes that might change in the second set of episodes, but it's like, we really didn't get to see much of her relationship with Umbrain that was so important, or her ambition. She just kind of died early, and after being kind of a nuisance and hindrance to the team. So, yeah, Lady Proud was annoying and boring, and she had a good design and good potential, but she didn't really, her story didn't pan out all that well, I don't think. Okay then, so number 60 is Swim Swim, and for Swim Swim, the reason why she's not quite as low, despite having killed a pregnant woman and killed a bunch of characters that are really lovable and enjoyable and ruined so many of our good days, I think that Swim Swim isn't quite as contemptible and hateable, because even though I think her being a kid isn't an excuse for the evil things she did, at the same time, there is at least something that you can kind of half-heartedly use as an excuse, where with Minael or with Calamity Mary, you don't even kind of have that half excuse. So there's that. And there's also the fact that even though she is totally evil, and I'll never forgive her for the people she killed, she's an entertaining character. She is a really entertaining villain. So, yeah, I think she's a good character. I think she's a really good, complex villain. But at the same time, she's one of my least favorite because, just screw her, she killed Top Speed and Tama. So, yeah, she doesn't deserve my sympathy. But yeah, that's why she's at 60. Number 59 on the list is Captain Grace, and I feel like a lot of people will disagree with me on this because Captain Grace wasn't a bad guy, like at all. But if you remember my read-through of Limited, I never liked Captain Grace. I always found her, like, rude. I felt like she held the other characters back. Her relationship was a toxic one with Funny Trick, where Funny Trick deserved better. I just really never liked Captain Grace. Her design is okay, her powers are okay, but as a person, I thought that she was rude and annoying, and I just didn't like her as a character very much. And she is one of the only good guys that's died where I've been like, okay, I'm cool with this. So, yeah, she's been one of the only good guys that I haven't been super sad and devastated at their death. And in 58th is Uniel, the less detestable of the two Peaky Angels. And I know a lot of people bring this up when I say, oh, Minael's so much worse than Uniel. But, yeah, Uniel had her problems too. She was the one who, I believe, stabbed... Yeah, she was the one who would have stabbed Winter Prison. She had a lot of the same problems as Minael, of course, with being just kind of vain and selfish and really hateful towards others. But I feel like those problems were less severe with Minael than Uniel. Wait. With Uniel than Minael. Sorry, getting them confused even here. And also, she died early enough in the story to have not done quite as many evil things. So pretty much, take my word from what I said about Minael, and then dial it back a little bit, and that's how I feel about Uniel. And number 57 is Umbrain. So Umbrain, just like what I just said with Uniel and Minael, take what I said about Lady Proud and then just dial it back a bit. I feel like she wasn't quite, well, I feel like she was more boring than Lady Proud. Lady Proud was a bit more interesting and had more potential, but at the same time, Umbrain was less annoying. She was less getting in the way of other characters and less making their situation worse. So yeah, she is kind of a boring character that just only was around in the story to get in the way during Jokers, but not as much as Lady Proud. And that's about it. So yeah, this is one of the few ones where I'm like, with a lot of the evil characters, I'm like, oh, they're good characters, but screw them. But then Lady Proud and Umbrain, it's more like, they really aren't even that great of characters. They're just kind of boring. They're just kind of there. They showed up and they died, and they didn't really have much effect on anybody else. Number 56 is Cherna Mouse. So the thing with Cherna, I feel like during Restart, if it was just Restart, she might have even been lower on the list. I mean, she was kind of annoying. She was in a place similar to Lady Proud. She didn't listen to what the other characters were saying or going through. She just wanted to fight and defend her territory. And yeah, she just wasn't a very nice or good person of a character in Restart. But then I came around to her character and liked her character a lot more after reading her story and episodes, but yeah, that's about it. It's just with all these characters in this series that I absolutely love, Cherna's more along the lines of, she's alright. Number 55 is Rainbow. Now Rainbow is a little bit higher on the list because though she was a bad guy and was evil and screwed over a lot of the characters that I like, at the same time she was cool. She had a really cool design, cool personality, I guess, and was just, generally an entertaining character. When she would go back and forth with Toko, it was great because Toko was such an entertaining personality in the story. So, I guess that's why Rainbow to me isn't as hateable as the others, because she did a lot of things that I dislike, but she also was entertaining while doing them. And another thing with Rainbow is that, I would count this as a negative, is that her powers didn't always make sense. Sometimes her powers, I didn't quite get them. She made rainbows that you could stand on and stuff, but then when she would, wrap rainbows within rainbows and use rainbows to block things inside of things, then sometimes it would start to make less sense, and it'd be like, okay, they're kind of stretching her abilities a bit in the plot here. So, Rainbow, evil character, but more entertaining. And 54th is Pukin. So Pukin was more evil, just sickeningly evil, horribly evil, more evil than Rainbow, but way, way cooler and way more entertaining. Pukin carried a lot of limited storyline, so it made sense that she would need to be a more entertaining character. But that's why she's only one place higher, because she does so many things that I'm like, oh, she's horrible and detestable. But then she also is just really cool and entertaining and fun to read, and her design is awesome. And I feel like I would have probably even put her a lot higher on the list, but I feel like the ending of Limited soured me on her a bit, where, okay, when it made sense for her to just go ahead and die, she still kept coming back and still kept coming back, and to a point that's cool. When characters do that, to a point it's cool, but I feel like Limited overdid it. I think it went so far that it went from being cool to being like, okay, come on, really? So I feel like the problems, she carried Limited's main plot a lot, but that also means that the problems of Limited's main plot kind of fall back on her a little bit there towards the end. So, that's why I would put her at 54. And next up is the dumbest character in the series at 53, Hanageko Kujo. She's this high up because she was a good person you want to root for. She had a cool design, really cool powers, but she's also this terribly low on the list because she is very, very dumb. There are so many instances where you're like, okay, she used her power before to just totally incapacitate people. Why doesn't she do that every time? Why doesn't she just start off using her power to incapacitate people? There's so many situations where Hana would be the ultimate destroyer, the key to winning this battle in Limited, and then she just isn't. And her death definitely throws her near the bottom. Maybe she could have even been lower on the list, because her death is one of the worst bits of writing in the entire series, where Pukin is running away, and Hana is there with Mana and Nanako-san, I believe, and she goes away from those two to stop Pukin, like, I'm gonna protect you, Mana, I'm gonna protect you, Nanako-san, and then she gets killed, and then Pukin continues running away. Pukin was running away. She didn't care about Mana and Nanako-san, and we have proof of that. You know what the proof of that is? After she kills Hana for being stupid, she doesn't care about either of them. She just keeps running. That's what she was going to do anyway. She was trying to get away from Rainbow. So, yeah, Hana's death was for nothing. She literally died for absolutely nothing in a stupid way. She saw the bad guy running away, jumped in front of them to die, and that's it. She didn't, they were already running away. She didn't have to do it. She would have been so indispensable in the final battle and helpful in the final battle, but she just basically killed herself via Pukin, and for nothing. She wasn't really protecting them because Pukin wasn't trying to kill them. Her death is one of the, I think, low points of writing in the entire series, and that really makes the character this low on the list, despite being good, like, personality-wise and stuff, but just the stupidity of her death throws her down so much. Next up, starting with 52, is a character that I actually really like. So it's like all these top 50 are characters I really like. I really like Grimheart. I really do. I think her place in the story in Jokers is really cool. I think her powers are cool. Her personality is cool. She is evil, which is kind of why she's on the downside compared to characters that I'm rooting for, actually, because I'm not rooting for Grimheart. But at the same time, I love all the stuff about Grimheart, and the reason that she's kind of thrown down this far is because she's totally overshadowed by Shufflin. It's like all the good things about Grimheart and her place in the story, and how the villains kind of carry the story a lot in Jokers, she's overshadowed by far by Shufflin and all those things. So, that's kind of like Shufflin's a way more scary villain. Shufflin's a way more interesting and complex villain. Shufflin's way easier to root for despite being a villain. So it's like that's kind of one of the reasons that she gets knocked down, is because she's paired with Shufflin, who is a much more interesting character. But either way, I really like her, despite her only being my 52nd favorite. Next up in 51st, we have Princess Tempest. I feel like she's here because she wasn't exactly the most exciting pure element. I feel like she was the least exciting. And I think the reason for that is that, to me, her goal, her objective, was kind of just to find love, and it was the least compelling out of the four elements. So that's probably the reason why. And another reason why is that she didn't really get as much spotlight as the other three did, or even throwing in Prism Cherry, she didn't get as much spotlight. So I think that's why. No disrespect or hate for the character, just not my favorite of the pure elements. In 50th place is Akane. I actually wasn't that big of an Akane fan in Restart, but I feel like her episode really brought me around on the character and made me like her a lot more. And in addition to that, I just think she has a really cool design, and all the Restart characters are really good. So, yeah, her episode really sold me on her a bit more, but she's still not really my favorite, which is why she's in 50. 49th is this asshole, Pithy Frederica. I really can't stand so many of the things that she's done, but at the same time, she is so entertaining, so funny. Probably one of the most entertaining and funny characters in the series, where, like, I would absolutely love her if she wasn't such a jerk, but she's done so many evil things that I hate, that despite my love for how entertaining she is, my hatred for how she's hurt characters I like, the conflicting thoughts of the two of those have knocked her down to 49th place. Next in 48th is Keek, and I'm not gonna lie, Keek is here mostly just because I think her design is amazing. I freaking love Keek's design. Because pretty much, Restart was all her fault. Nobody in Restart, other than her, really killed anybody. She kind of killed everyone who died in Restart. So she killed a bunch of really amazing, nice, good people. Which makes me really not like her a lot. But at the same time, her design is so cool. And I feel like there's also this thing there where her intentions were good, but she was really misguided. So it's difficult to judge her too harshly, but yeah, at the same time, everything in Restart was her fault. And in 47th is Poster-E. So with Poster-E, I think she has a really cool power, she has a nice design, and she was just trying to help her friend. It's not like she was just straight evil or anything. She wasn't the most exciting character in Limited, but also not the least exciting. I don't know, she's a very middle-of-the-road character, and the way that her death came about, I feel sorry for her. Even though I disagree with the decision she made and the things she did, I feel bad for her as a character. 46th is Magical Daisy. I seriously have the least amount of thoughts on her for any character. She was basically only around to be a death. She was there to be a veteran magical girl, a famous magical girl, and then to die first. That is like the only reason she was in the story. But at the same time, she has a cool design. We got to see a bit more about her in episodes. And she's kind of a likable character, and everybody always finds the Daisy Beam to be like a cool thing to discuss. So yeah, Daisy is still enjoyable, even though we really didn't get to see much of her. And you know, I'd like to see more of some of these characters. I've said this about other characters already, but I'd love to see more of these characters in the future, even if just in side stories. So yeah, hopefully we still get more Daisy in the future at some point. My 45th favorite character is Sister Nana. So about Sister Nana, I really like her sort of idealism and personality, and the best thing about her is her relationship with Weiss Winter Prison and how well written that was. So for me, she's not as cool as her counterpart. I think her power is just not that interesting of a power. I mean, it's more what you do with it. I mean, on paper, Snow White's power isn't all that interesting, but Snow White's power ends up being one of the coolest in the entire series. But yeah, either way, we're starting to get to the point where I love every single character, so it's just a little bit nitpicky with what order they're in, depending on my personal taste, but I really like Sister Nana. Next up is at Nyan Nyan, or I think in the official release at Meow Meow, actually. But yeah, Nyan Nyan is a character who is just very okay, and that's about it. Like, I'm really conflicted because I'm actually not that big a fan of Nyan Nyan's design or her power, but the story that she got during Restart and in episodes, she has a good story. So I'm a bit conflicted. I love her story, but at the same time, I don't think her design or power are bad. I'm just not as interested in them as in others. Flez in 43rd. So, yeah, I think people are really going to dislike my decision to put her this low on the list because she's absolutely a fan favorite character. I love Flez's design. Her personality is really cool, and she plays a good driving role in a lot of the stories. But I don't know, I love her, but not that much. Her power is absolutely useless. Like, there is no point whatsoever in her power. Her power is to have this souped-up, super-fast wheelchair, but literally she hangs out with Shadowgale, who could turn any chair into his souped-up, super-fast wheelchair. And also, I would have put her much, much higher on the list, maybe in the 20s or even teens, but then Limited happened, and Jokers kind of made me a little bit more okay with the character turn we had in Limited, but I really didn't like that she is behind all these good characters who died in Limited. So, yeah, her having this evil side of her, even though it's kind of justified, kind of soured me on the character a bit during Limited. But we'll see how the future of the character goes. And in 42nd is Magicaloid 44, just 2 away. I was kind of hoping that ironically she would end up in 44th place. But no, 42nd favorite is Magicaloid 44. She is not a fan favorite, but I've always loved Magicaloid, even from watching the anime where I started out on the series. So yeah, I've always kind of felt sorry for her. I mean, she did some bad things, but when a character has, like, reasons for it, sometimes it can be more justified and ends up you hating the character less. That, and she didn't really do anything all that evil. I mean, she tried to, but it never really panned out for her. In fact, her death was caused by her trying to do something evil. So, yeah, Magicaloid is one that I've always liked, and I can kind of justify the few sort of bad things she did by saying that she has a good backstory. And also, I don't really know much of the human designs, because we haven't got to see many of the human designs outside of Unmarked, and in Unmarked, her human design is one of my favorite. I think it's really good. So, yeah, I've always liked Magicaloid, even though not even factoring in her power here, because I don't really care about her power very much. In 41st place is Utakata. I really, really liked Utakata. Her design's okay, whatever, but I loved her personality. I thought she was really cool. Her powers were cool and useful. The only reason she isn't higher up on the list is because she didn't really get much screen time, so to speak. We didn't really get to know that much about her. I wish we got more time with her character. So, yeah, it's a character I really liked, but we just didn't get that much of. And getting into our top 40, we've got Kafuria, who is very much connected with Utakata as a character. I love her design. It is one of my favorite designs from any of the arcs. And I think that she's in a similar place to Utakata, where I love her character, except she's even cooler than Utakata, which is why she's higher up, and also even more underutilized, or unutilized, really. Her power is so cool, one of the coolest powers in the series, but we don't get to see it, like, at all, do anything whatsoever during the arc. So, it's one of those situations where she'd probably be super high up if the arc did anything with her at all, but no, pretty much used even less than Utakata. So, yeah, poor Kafuria. And in 39th is Top Pop. I love Top Pop. Top Pop is, she has a really, really cool design. I love it. It reminds me a little bit even of Roxy from Pokemon, who is one of my favorite Pokemon characters. But I know a lot of people are going to call me hypocritical for putting her so high up on the list and putting other bad guys so low on the list. But I kind of just feel like she wasn't that bad a person. She just got roped into the wrong group of friends, so to speak. I'm making so many excuses for her, but I really enjoy the character. Her power's kind of whatever, but I think the concept of her being a rebel leader is really, really cool, and we didn't get to explore that much. We didn't get to explore it enough. But yeah, everything about her was really cool, so I like Top Pop a lot. And next up is Top Speed. So again, I hear everybody yelling, why is Top Speed so low on the list? But we're already in the point where, like, all of these characters are characters I love, but I feel like I just didn't really love Top Speed as much as everybody else did. Don't get me wrong, I love the character, her design is amazing, her backstory is awesome, her story in the arc is so sad, and it makes me so angry that she died. But, I don't know. I absolutely love everything about the character, but when I'm thinking of my favorite characters, I don't really think of Top Speed as much as, like, it seems like everybody else does. Most of the people I talk to, like, Flea and Top Speed are way up there for them, but for me, I don't know. I love everything about her character. It's just she doesn't, I guess she didn't personally connect with me as much as a lot of characters in the top 10 or maybe top 20 did. And right above her in my ranking is another fan favorite, Lapicelle. So Lapicelle's another one. I love her character design. She had a role to play in the story of the childhood friend who dies, because of course the childhood friend always dies. She had that role to play, and she played it very well. But she wasn't that cool, I guess. I don't know. I really like everything about the character, and I think that in Unmarked, I was kind of like, whatever. She's kind of middle-of-the-pack character in Unmarked. But then we get her episode in the first set of episodes, and I think her episode made me like her a lot more as a character. So I would credit that with making me enjoy the character even more than I already did. Her episode, I think, is, to this day, I think it still might be one of my favorite ones. And my 36th favorite, Yamanashima Genasaiko. So she was a really entertaining character, a really funny character. She was really gone too soon in Restart. I would have loved to have seen so much more of the character. She's another one. I loved her cameo appearance in La Pucelle's, in her episode story that I just talked about. So, yeah, a character that I absolutely love. A bit gone too soon. I thought her relationship and the role she played in Restart was good, and there was something else I wanted to say about her that I'm forgetting, I think. No, maybe not. I don't know. Oh well, oh yeah, there's always the argument too over who wins between the unstoppable Daisy Beam or the impenetrable Genasaiko suit. But yeah, either way, guess that's it. I really, really like the character. And 35th is Ruler. I freaking love Ruler so much. Ruler is another one that's like not totally a fan favorite, but has always been a favorite of mine ever since Unmarked. I really loved the character, even though she wasn't even really in Unmarked that much. I guess just her personality of being so mean on the surface, but being actually a really sweet, great person underneath it all who was just trying to protect her friends. I really liked it. Her design is amazing. I love her design. I liked her human design too, and the story behind what her human self was going through. All of that was really, really good. Her power was really cool and creative, where it was OP, but only in certain circumstances, which makes it really cool writing-wise. Yeah, I loved everything about the character. So again, me hoping, just give us, I know episodes Delta is coming eventually, just give us more episodes of characters like Ruler. And next up is one that I am almost depressed to talk about, Pechka. Pechka has probably the greatest death in the series. I don't think any other death was done as well as Pechka's that I can think of off the top of my head. Her entire character arc and story leading to it is what made it so powerful and good too. We got to focus on her story. I like another one of the things that made Restart so amazing is focusing on the characters and the reasons for wanting to survive outside of the game. So focusing on her human self was great. I didn't personally really connect with her goal of just wanting to fall in love with this guy that much, but I don't know. Everything about it was so well done. I can't complain about any of it. And one of the best things about her too is her group, her relationships with Miyakata, Nonoko, and I hope I didn't mess up her name there, and Rionetta, why am I blanking out on this, and Clantail. Her relationships with her team were so good, and her team was really a carrying force in Restart, which is like the best thing I've ever read. So for her to be one of the best characters in one of the best things I've ever read, I freaking love Pechka. It's just, again, personal connection. Don't connect with her as much as others. And there are others that just like, well, I'm like, oh, Pechka's so well written. There are others where I'm like, they're so friggin' cool. And cool, I guess, kind of beats that in terms of favoritism. And Princess Inferno's in 33rd. Another kind of bummer of a death right back to back. Her death was probably, I don't know. There were a lot of good deaths in Jokers. I was going to say one of the best in Jokers. It is one of the best, but there were also a lot of really good ones, like Styler Mimi's or Prism Cherries. So, yeah, I don't know if I can say that hers is the best, but it's really, really good and well written. I loved the concept of her being a childhood friend to Snow White, and because of that, I kind of wish she would have lived. I wish we got to see more of her as a character. So it's just so sad that we lost her. Her character design is cool. I thought her personality was cool, and she was one of the more, all the pure elements were good and interesting. All of them were great. So, yeah, everything about the character, awesome. I loved everything she did in Jokers. Conceptually, it was a good character choice. And I'm just bummed that we lost her, even though it was an amazing death. And next is Nanako-san. I love Nanako-san. Her design, good. Not my favorite, but good. Her power, really cool. But the thing that I like about her is, she's so wholesome, but also we get this really cool development over time, over the course of Limited and then into Jokers during the kind of epilogue-y bits that we get. I thought that her character development was really, really good. She started out, she's just an instructor, an inspector, kind of. She doesn't really do combat or anything like that, and she has to go through this whole experience, learn a lot of things, make new relationships, and the relationships she builds are really good, to the point where characters that she just met are dying off and you're feeling sad and feelsy because she's losing that person that really she hasn't even known that long, but that's how well the relationships she had were written. So yeah, Nanako-san I really, really love as a character, so that's why she's so high up. 31st is Funny Trick, and it's like crazy to think about because I love the character so much. I'm like, how are they not way higher up than this? But that's just how good all these characters are. I love her design so much. Her design is so cool and good. Her story was amazing. The way that she grew throughout the arc, her powers are like some of the most interesting and some of the most well-used story-wise. I mean, the most well-used story-wise. You're not going to get any argument out of me other than Snow White's. But hers were really, really cool during Limited. And I know that I say that Limited was probably the least good of the arcs, but there were still a lot of good things in it. Being the least good of a good series, you're still going to be pretty good. I feel like her death kind of hurts the character. I'm going to have to ignore the bullshit deaths of her and a couple others to keep them this high in my memory. But yeah, she really shouldn't have died. She was a really, really good character. Or if she died, her death should have been less BS. But I love the character, so 31st place. And now we make it into the top 30 with Princess Deluge. Deluge is such a good character. Her story was so great. Her perspective during Jokers, and again, I loved the arc, but her perspective was one of the best ones. Everything we learned about her backstory, the way she built her relationship with Prism Cherry, and again, she's one of those characters where one of the great things about the character, like with Pechka, like with Nanako-san, is the relationships she makes and how those relationships affect the story. One of the things I always talk about that I love more than anything in fictional media is character relationships. Good character relationships can drive a story like nothing else. So that's one of the reasons I really love Deluge. I love all the pure elements, and she's one of the best ones. Hey everyone, I'm gonna do a really quick outro here to kind of explain things a bit. So I brought it up in an update on the channel's community page and in my video update. The reason why I've sort of been struggling to record because I couldn't record for more than a little bit at a time, but what you just watched, this video, was a collection of me recording the character discussions for this list over the course of like an entire month. So I was planning, I didn't want to get rid of these and just re-record because they had sort of my spur-of-the-moment original thoughts, and so I wanted to keep that for the characters. And because of that, I was like, I'm planning to post it all as one thing. I'll fuse it together, but I don't have time to record the other half this week, so instead of making you wait another week, I wanted to post all of this the day you're watching this, if you're watching it the day it came out. So I posted all this together, and this is going to be the first part. And over the course of the next week, I am recording the other half of this, and you will be seeing the other half next Tuesday, and from then on, the Tuesday after that and Tuesday after that, we'll get back into the read-throughs with the next arc, of course, after I do my reaction to the next arc's character designs. So I just wanted to throw this in real quick here at the end so you'd know what was going on with part 2, and yeah, I guess that's it. So like, comment, subscribe, and all that. Thank you so much for watching. Follow on Twitter if you want, and if you want a link to our Discord server, ask and I'll give you one. That's it. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.